I feel like...
Hello Electroheads, this is the Mini Electric and it's a car I've been meaning to get my hands on for a very, very long time so that I can answer a burning question. What are those? Actually, that's not the question, but look at these wheels. They are wild, aren't they? They're inspired by the UK 3-pin plug, fun fact. And actually, that's not the only British motif on this car. Come with me, come with me. See the tail lights? Look at that. Union Jacks, how cool is that? And inside the car, the steering wheel is actually in the shape of the Queen's face. Now, the question I actually have about this car is this. Is it as good as the Honda E? Because I've driven the Honda E and I love it. I think it might be the best city car in the world right now, electric or otherwise. This costs about the same amount as the Honda E. It's actually a little bit cheaper. It has the same size battery, but other than that, the two are very different. So which should you buy? Let's begin with the outside of the car since we're already here, and the bottom line is, well, it's a Mini, isn't it? It looks like a Mini because it is one. This is actually a Mini Cooper that's had the engine ripped out and some batteries put in. And let's be honest, the design of this car has barely changed over the last 20 years since it was re-released in the year 2000. It's just got a bit bigger. It's charming, it's timeless, it's a Mini, isn't it? You can't hate a Mini. That'd be like hating a Labrador. My only complaint is that the two things that mark this one out as the electric one are things that I personally am not a big fan of, which is these wheels and this sort of bogey green trim across the front. Fortunately, both are optional and you can go without both. And actually, you don't want these wheels, you want the smaller wheels anyway, because then you get more range. I do slightly wish that Mini had been a bit more adventurous with the styling of the electric. I wish that they'd taken the classic Mini formula and put a bit more of a twist on it. But I do understand why they didn't, because think back to the last little electric car that BMW Group made, the i3. It was groundbreaking, it was unusual, it was ahead of its time, and it actually wasn't massively successful. And clearly BMW Group has looked at that and gone, right, with our next small electric car, let's just make it look like a car. And it do. Right, moving on to the interior of the Mini Electric. And again, it's a Mini in here, and that's absolutely fine with me because I've always liked the interior of Minis. These seats are fantastic. They're sporty, they hug you tight, and they look brilliant. We've got lots of nice tactile retro looking buttons and switches down here, and in the middle we've got the big circular piece that's always been a staple of Mini cabins. If you go back to like a 2000s Mini Cooper, this actually used to be a big analog speedo, but it's 2020 now, so this is now a little 8-inch touchscreen which serves the infotainment system, and it's one of the best infotainment systems that you can buy on a modern car. BMW are just so good at this stuff. Another thing I like in here, this speedometer, which is quite interesting looking actually, and it kind of looks a bit like the screen of a Kindle. It looks like it would be completely glare-proof, which is a good thing. But possibly my favorite thing in this cabin is how low you sit. That is not a common thing in electric cars, because usually you've got a load of batteries under your bum and you sit a bit higher. The Mini Electric is a couple centimeters taller than the regular petrol Mini Cooper, but you still sit nice and low, and that is so important to that go-kart sensation that Minis are known for. Hopefully it's got the handling to match. We'll find out in a minute. It is really, really nice in here, but just do something for me. Pause this video for a second, click this link in the top corner, go watch my video on the Honda E and skip to the part where we talk about the cabin, because it's not really a fair fight. This feels like a really lovely small car interior. The Honda E feels like a Swedish living room. What's nice about the Mini is it really just feels like a normal car in here. There's nothing confusing or intimidating. If this is your first electric car, it's not going to frighten you in any way, and that will appeal to lots of people. But if you just want something that is from the future and unlike anything else, it has to be the Honda E. Right, can we go for a drive now, Cole? Come on, buddy, you can get a lorry through there. And he has done. Right, let's talk about what the Mini Electric is like to drive. And you're gonna have to excuse me, you're gonna be looking at a lot of my face for this part of the video. We don't have the car for very long today, so we don't have time to do all those fancy exterior shots that we usually get that involve me whizzing past while Cole stands on the side of the road in the cold. Cole's very upset about this, aren't you, Cole? Mm-hmm. He's not. And I tell you what, I think we've found the Mini Electric's party trick, because this thing is a blast to drive. This feels to me like an electric hot hatchback, and that is something I've waited a very long time to say. Power is 182 brake horsepower. That's the same as the Cooper S, the petrol one, but this feels quicker because, of course, it's electric, so you get all that torque off the line. But you know what? Every electric car that I've ever driven has felt quick off the line. The Mini is more talented than that. As I mentioned, this electric Mini is actually a little bit taller than the petrol one, but the center of gravity in this car is lower than the petrol Mini because of that line of heavy batteries under the floor. And you can really tell this thing likes being chucked around. It feels quite playful in a way that I'm just not used to in an electric car. We actually took this thing around a slalom course earlier today, and the fact that Mini even let us use this on a slalom course shows confidence. And it was very impressive. If you'd taken any other electric city car around that course, like the Mi Electric that I used the other day, it would have been on its roof by the end. The ride is quite firm in here. It's actually stiffer sprung than the petrol Mini to help with the extra weight of those batteries, but not uncomfortably so. And actually that firm ride, again, is a really important part of that Mini go-kart driving experience that I was talking about before. I wouldn't have it any other way. I'll tell you what else, a bit of a hooligan, this thing. It loves to spin its wheels. You just, bury the throttle. You can spin up the front wheels whenever you like. I'll tell you another thing I really like in here. I've got this little dial on the gauge cluster here that's showing me how much energy I'm using every time I put my foot down. But what it's really doing is simulating a rev counter. There are so many little touches in here that just make it feel like a normal combustion engine car, to make it feel as friendly and as familiar as possible while still being electric. I'm sorry if I'm going to be grinning like an idiot this whole video, but this car is making me happy. Hot hatches are my favorite kind of car, and I've been waiting a long time to drive something electric that feels like one. This is it. This is my favorite handling electric car that I've driven. However, there is a trade-off to this sporty handling, and it is a very small battery. Now, Mini insists that they put a small battery in this car on purpose. They did it to keep weight down so that it was good to drive. They did it so that you could charge it quickly, so that they could keep costs down on the car, and so that you didn't lose a load of cabin space. And those are all good things, but there's a downside to a small battery, and it is, you guessed it, not very good range. According to Mini, this car can do 124 to 144 miles on a single charge, depending on a zillion factors like where you're driving, how you're driving, what mode you're in, blah, blah, blah. Now, in the real world, and for most people who buy this car, that's probably going to be enough range. Mini did a lot of research before deciding on how big to go with their battery, and they found most Mini Cooper S petrol owners do about 150 miles a week, meaning this is probably more than enough charge for, city driving. And if we're being really honest, the people who buy this car will buy it as their city runaround, and they'll probably own another car for the longer journeys. But I think it's a shame that this car only has city car range, because the way it handles, it deserves to be taken out on B roads like this and blasted about, and you're just not going to get to do that very often. It's a terrible paradox, really. Give a car a smaller battery, make it lighter, and it handles great, but you don't get to use it enough. Give a car a bigger battery and you can take it wherever you like, but it's too heavy and it doesn't handle very well. One fine day, not too far from now, we'll be able to have cars that do both, because we will have figured out how to make batteries smaller, lighter, and more efficient. But for the time being, we have to accept certain compromises. Overall, this is a fantastic little electric car. It's the best handling small electric car that I've driven, and you know what? They're gonna sell zillions of them because it's just a Mini in here. It's so friendly, there's nothing intimidating about it. The mums of Hampstead and Highgate are going to buy this in their droves. But because of its range, this car is only rarely going to get to show off its true talents, which is its handling. And that's why, if it was my money, I think I'd probably have a Honda E, because that car's party trick is just being wonderful to sit in, and that is something you'll get to enjoy every single second that you're in it. I know that the Honda E has just as limited range as this. I know it's a bit more expensive. I know it's got the world's tiniest boot ever fitted to a car, but it's just so special. This Mini Electric is a really good car that is limited to city use. The Honda E is a brilliant city car that has no interest in being anything else. But I promise you, there is no wrong choice here. So there we have it, the Mini Electric, yet another fantastic small electric city car, and a very promising sign for the future of hot hatchbacks. Make sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you soon.